All right, we are going now. So, I guess basically a quick synopsis of the case is there's the shuttle launch in 2003, and at the launch, I guess it's a piece of foam comes off of what's the portion called? The external tank, and it hit the shuttle itself and damaged the thermal plating. And then the whole time they were trying to figure out how extensive the damage was, and it just seemed kind of a little disconnected. Trying to figure out what had actually happened to the shuttle. So most of the case was just discussing how they were trying to gain more information or why they didn't have enough information and things of that sort. So it was just them trying to gather information, but then they were also seemed like ignoring a lot of information, which in the end the shuttle broke apart and all the people on board lost their lives. So that's the basics of the case. So what were the main issues that you guys saw in the case, whether technical problems or organizational problems?
I think organizational problems was their biggest thing. They had, like I was saying before, they had 13 departments, all reporting to 4 different people, and to me that'd be very confusing of which person I go to when I need things done or I need requests from out of agency stuff or more money or whatever. And then they would just make departments whenever needed. I think that was the biggest problem. They would just pop up departments because there was like the Tiger team that they just made up because there was a problem, or the DAT team that they made up because there was this issue with the foam that could be an issue. So they would make up these departments, but they wouldn't put them in their structure. They just kind of make them up and say, figure it out. So the departments didn't have support, I think, to really get their job done.
Yeah, it really seemed like they were disconnected. Like each was working on its own without resources from the other ones. I think regarding like the hierarchy and who reports to, there's the one they talked about the previous disaster of the shuttle, where the O-ring, I think it was the O-ring under a certain temperature didn't work, and there's an engineer who like wrote a letter saying like about the O-ring, but he didn't send it because he was discouraged to like send it to superiors. So like all his colleagues had read it, but he didn't send it upward, and so it's just basically like people just kind of stayed in their own rung, and there was no communication elsewhere. It's just kind of weird.
I think you got it mixed up. The O-ring guy, he actually brought it up to them, and they told him that it wasn't that big of a deal. You're talking about the foam guy, the guy who saw the foam struck, and he's like,
"Oh yeah." So not the O-ring guy, the foam guy, but one of the engineers was riding up, and then they basically told him not to, right?
Yep.
So I thought that was really interesting. It just seemed like they were really disconnected as an organization, like they were just all thrown together.
They cut a lot of corners. I felt like wherever they went, they felt like either something wasn't important enough, or they could ignore it. A lot of times it was just like, oh, we can ignore it. It didn't happen in the past, so we can ignore it now. There's a lot of times that it would say multiple times in the article, it didn't happen in the previous launches, so we don't have to worry about it now.
Yeah, when it was a problem, and it was documented to be a problem, they just got so used to it, they didn't care. I think a lot of pressure was on them because being a government-run agency, you have a budget and you have to stick with it. And when you don't stick with it, you got to explain why. And if you want more in your budget or you want your budget to continue, you have to have results for the government, because the senators, they're going to be deciding if they're going to fund you or not. And all they care about is, well, are we getting results so that we get news so that people think that I'm cool because I helped out this NASA program, or are you just wasting my money and I'm not getting votes for this, so there's really no point. And so they're very result driven, but then they're also tightly budgeted. So these people really do stuff because they're like, wait, that's going to cost money. Don't do that.
Yeah, it was all about time and money and turnaround time for the next mission. And I think I just found, just before the film strike history section of the thing, it talks about how NASA was playing a kind of Russian roulette. And if nothing happens, then it suggests that it's no longer a risk, so they just forget about it for its flight. So they just kind of, even the things that happen that could be catastrophic, nothing happens after that, so we're just going to ignore it because we have this budget, and we have these deadlines and things like that. So next. So it's lots of in the prompt thing. It says what is the human cognitive basis and why. So human cognitive basis, it says systematic errors in judgment, confirmation bias. So it's basically confirmation bias. We have this basis of information doesn't confirm our existing views, we won't follow it. So how is that present in this case? Is what we're asking. In which we turn Travis is
What was that?
just like background. It was showing it coming. But where was it? Why do you think basically why do you think that idea was so weird within the NASA that they had such a confirmatory bias or tendency for information that only confirms their existence?
You're getting broken up. I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time understanding what you're asking. My computer must be really slow or something.
No, it's like
Yeah.
just never done that.
So I'm looking at the agenda. Which question are you asking?
It's ambiguous.
Okay.
I don't know. Weird.
I think a judgment call they had like with the O-ring, with that one, with the Apollo, that maybe they thought, well, we have everything set up, but they didn't want to wait for the temperature to get warmer. And they're like, this is our window. We have it all done. So they just kind of bypassed that whole little threat that could be the temperature being off. And the temperature, you saw it was off by like, what, 2 or 3 degrees? That was it from what they said was the safe zone. And then it blew up. And they're like, well, even though it was 2 or 3 degrees, that was really important. But they were like, so like we put everything into making this launch happen, that to make it delayed would have been very costly for them. And so they just let it go. And they should have just delayed it and made sure everything was perfect, even though it would cost even more. So I think that was a big error on their part.
One of the things it says here that I think is kind of interesting to ask, why, when did the problem with the Columbia begin? And I think that started with all the other cases or problems that they created a culture of a problem. So even though they should have been there, that because they had done this so many times before, it just didn't seem like a big deal to them because they had these things about their problem. So like the problem with the Columbia didn't begin with the Columbia, but with their other missions that had minor errors that created this culture that it didn't matter if it was really off. Is my voice better or no?
No, you're still doing that echoey thing.
I don't know.
Am I echoing?
No, it's just me.
Does it sound weird with you now, or is it still?
What are you doing?
Well, apparently Travis thinks it's worse than mine. This is weird. Sorry, I'm looking at my study. I don't know. We just have to go in. So, another question here that I don't think we've answered yet. How would you characterize the culture at NASA? Like their strengths, what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses?
I see your messages, Travis. Just let you know. You can hear us, right? Yeah, I think their weakness was the fact that like you said before, they ignored the Chicken Littles. They would rather they'd rather succeed at any cost and be in their time schedule that they had to have than to be safe. And that's messed up.
Yeah. Thinking about that drain, I didn't think about the strength. I was just looking at the problems. Strength, I feel like they have the resources to solve the problems, but their weakness of their deadline and budget made it so they decided they didn't want to use all those resources. So they had everything at their disposal to solve the problem, but they just didn't use it. So it was like they have the strength and the ability to like solve the problem. Get corners into it.
Yeah, I don't think the people at the top were getting the right information about it. They treated it like, oh yeah, it's not that big of a deal, but here we got to tell you this thing, but it's not that big of a deal. Even when they told the astronauts, like, it's not that big of a deal, but this thing could happen, but not big deal, don't worry.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
I don't think people on top who said that they actually knew what was actually happening.
Yeah, I think one of the people said Columbia.
Okay, you just muted Michael. Okay, you just muted him again. What are you doing? I didn't even know you could mute other people.
Me neither. But what was it?
We were talking about the strengths of NASA.
Oh, one of the emails I thought, while I went back to downplaying their situation, they just said FYI, Columbia took a hit, like it was damaged. But it's like, just so you know, it shouldn't be a big deal. Like it was something that happened to them. It didn't seem like people really wanted to put that much into it. However, it was just like a menial amount of information.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They should have researched it more.
Definitely.
Got the images for the people who needed it, so they could see that, oh crap, this is actually a really big problem.
Well, I feel like who should have been the most accountable is that higher leadership and not allowing correct academic communication throughout the organization.
And there's like a trust factor too. I mean, they hire the best engineers they can find, but then when their engineers say, hey, something's wrong, they chose to ignore them. And I'm like, you hired these people because they're the best of the best. You should listen to them when they give their advice and actually do their job.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately their largest failure. There was just no trust and actual communication within the organization. And the people
Sorry.
The people who they didn't facilitate the communication or the collaboration within the organization. So I looked into the video suggested about NASA, like how it came out, and you know the shuttle broke up in the end. It broke up, and everyone died. They locked the doors and documented everything. So this is a lot of information we get came from. Overall investigation, they didn't really put the on like a specific group. They just kind of found out the mistakes. It's just kind of weird because they're like investigated. So there was like it was almost like an actual discipline being taken because of the mistake. It was kind of like what if everything happened, and that's kind of where it ended. So there wasn't
like any other government investigation.
Yeah, basically, it's just like they got all the information and they gave it to the public, but that was about all that happened. I mean, it was probably interesting for some people, but overall, real consequences. They probably just made another division.
Yeah. There's an XO on the USS South Carolina, and he rammed the submarine into an underwater mountain. That was totally like documented. That was been there forever, and he ignored his nav, his guy who runs like the maps, and ran the boat into it. And so they had to bring it back and everything. Well, the captain of the boat got fired and kicked out of the Navy, and that XO went to go be a captain for another submarine. And we're just like, really? He's the one, the captain himself was asleep at the time of the entire incident. But they're just like, okay, well, that's all. That was the most investigation they gave. And they're like, okay, well, you're the captain. It's your fault. And the XO that had chose to ignore and everything, he just went back to leading another sub.
Yeah, that's weird. I just feel like that's an entire lack of accountability in a lot of the organization. I'm an accountant and like so all public companies have to be audited, like review financial statements, make sure they're doing stuff right. but there's not a single government that's required to be audited. That kind of seems backwards. That we looked at what we were doing and held accountable, but they can hold companies accountable. It's kind of interesting. Is there any last comments that anyone has? I think we've covered pretty much every question.
I'm good.
Travis is good. All right. Well, posted. We're all set. See you guys next week.
Okay. Yeah.